right, hey everybody. Welcome to this week's Retire Rich here, and this is Brett Fogel from Moonstream, obviously. And we were going to live stream this on YouTube, but our YouTube API needs to get updated. So what I'm going to do is today we're going to talk about. Mike can't be here today, by the way, so we're recording this, and this is our Retire Rich class, obviously. And we're going to put it on YouTube just as a teaser. Would like to get more people in this great class. And so we're going to dive into some news. We're going to unpack all the markets, what's happening here, getting a little bit of a bounce on Bitcoin. Zcash continues to tear to the upside, so we'll look at all of this, including total market cap, Ethereum, Solana, and the altcoins. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get started. So welcome everybody, and those of you that are here live, Dr. T, Mary, Sanford, and others on the way. I think Ray is joining. So anyway, again, Mike is under the weather, so hopefully you can see my screen. And if you're just tuning in and want to learn more about these classes, you can go to moonstream.io/retirerich. I believe that's the right link, Marine, if you could give me that and shoot that over in the chat. So let's dive in, and we'll do about 20-30 minutes of news unpacking that, and then we will dive into the charts as we always do, look at a couple of studies here, and just touch on some of these to see where we are and that we've been covering for the past couple weeks. So getting a little bit of a drawdown here, but we're also setting up a new base. So anyway, we'll get to that afterwards. And so with that, let's jump into some news. And yeah, the link to find out more is moonstream.io/RRIC. And we have a special Black Friday deal for people that want to try it out, and so you can check that out here. But for those of you that are here, it's pretty much the same deal you guys have. So from our M3 members. And anyway, Zcash price skyrockets past $500. Guys, this has been on a tear. I'll just flip over to that real quick. In this bloodbath market, the privacy coins have been doing very well, and namely Zcash, which is up, is just going up and up with no end in sight. I would not chase this here. I do think a pullback likely, but this is 10x since back here in September, going back to August. So once we were watching it, once it broke out of this sort of resistance zone, we were like, let's keep an eye on it. And then we took our eyes off of that, and it just kept on going. So we'll touch on Zcash. I'm going to go through some news. I think targets on this are 750 to 1,000. And ideally, a pullback would be an optimal entry. And with that, let's find out why. Basically, Zcash is a hard fork off of Bitcoin. It is the same blockchain, or was when they forked the original Bitcoin blockchain. So it's very much the same. It has halvings. It has limited 21 million maximum supply, and therefore it has scarcity. But what it has that Bitcoin doesn't is actual privacy. So if you are using Zcash for transactions, there won't be a record on the ledger necessarily that can be tied to you. And the Bitcoin ostensibly is private unless somebody knows your Bitcoin address. Now, there are companies like Arkham Intelligence and others that will, once a address is known, they'll tag it, and so from there on it is known. So big companies, the argument for Zcash is that big companies or even individuals, let's say you go buy something in a store or online using your address with Bitcoin, well, then that can be tied back to you, whereas Zcash, it can't. And maybe, just maybe, people don't necessarily want their entire purchase history being able to be looked up on the blockchain. And similarly with Ether on Etherscan. So that's the push. And the headline here saying Zcash price skyrockets past $500 after 250% monthly rally, $600 breakout coming. I think that's reasonable. You know, here's the thing. You know, we want to be careful of pump and dumps, obviously, but every cycle there is a narrative that gets all the attention. And of course, early on, there was DeFi summer, and then there was we hit the AI craze in October of 2023. Remember in Retire Rich, we were getting into a lot of those like INJ and some of those others that had these huge run-ups. Actually, I can pull that up here as, let me see. I want to show you that because on one of those pages that we linked to, this is the wrong page, Myrene. This goes to, is it? Okay, never mind. It looks like the M3 page. And so that must be the new version. Let me use the other one. I want to link to, just to show you guys why it's so important to get in at the right time and behind the right setups. And this is going somewhere because if I could remember, what's the main page there? Let me see, moonstream.io, retire rich. Maybe it's all one word. Maybe it's like that. If not, we'll figure it out later. But yeah, here it is. So basically, if we go over to the winning trades in this retire rich program, we haven't had a lot of picks lately. But when the signals align, that's what I'm getting at here. You know, we had Filecoin went up 260%, and that was all getting in right around that October 2023. Now, Filecoin has become way, way down, so these are not ones we want to hold on to. For long term, INJ went up 568% right in that October 5th. Can you see that? October 5th, 2023. Now, why did all of those go up so much? It's because all of the signals aligned, and so the point being, there was also a strong narrative behind it and the signals. Now, when I say signals aligned, we have custom trading signals, many of you know, and on the daily and weekly time frames, when they come over from oversold and start turning up, which is imminent. It's not here, but it's close. And so we want to be looking for the narrative that's most likely to go. Now, of course, in the last cycle, it was Solana transactions per second was a hot narrative. And we've also, we've had various different narratives along the way. DeFi, meme coins, NFTs, all of those were the main drivers. So what will be the hot narrative this time? Last cycle we had Phantom Coin also, which was a coin that just went vertical out of nowhere. So I am looking for those. And is it Zcash? Possibly. I think the targets, from here though, 750 to 1,000, that could give us about a double from here. So, the big move has been made. There will be others. We'll be watching for those. But long term, because this is retire rich, where we're looking for future Netflix and Amazon's longer term holds, certainly Zcash should be one, I think, in the long term holding bag. I would suggest having some long term hold and some to trade with, because holding through bear market, never fun. More and more people are coming out and saying, though, I was watching Arthur Hayes this morning and suggesting because of where we are in the liquidity cycle and quantitative easing hasn't started yet, that he believes, and more people, I also believe, and I've been saying this for a while now, that in 2026 we will have a secondary bull market peak. So the near-term targets, very questionable. Some people still saying 150 to 200K Bitcoin. I don't know about that. Potentially 135, 150, but we'll see. We'll get to that when we get to the charts. So Zcash, why is this interesting? For reasons that I've already stated, and I had shared also in the M3 Active Trader group and Retire Rich about Zcash, some of the reasons why. And if I just pull that up to recap, and we can talk about that. But again, there's scarcity. There's 21 million coins, and there's a healthy community. A lot of the founders, some of them came from Bitcoin, so very solid cryptologists. And I'm sure some of this will be covered here in this article that I'm about to kind of go through. And let's see, here it is. So basically, in the M3 chat yesterday, Zcash. So basically, I put out a buy alert under $500. It's obviously past that. It was at 450 around then. Zcash is now 525. I wouldn't chase it here. Probably do get a pullback, you guys. So might get another good entry. But at any rate, the reasons for that, let's see, I know I put it in here as Zcash, and here. So same tech as Bitcoin, private, so privacy, huge. And that's really the ethos that launched Bitcoin, privacy. So privacy coins coming back around. Now, why did they get hurt so bad? The last administration was gunning for crypto in general. They didn't want privacy. So all the privacy tokens like Monero and Pirate Chain and Zcash, they got hammered. Now we have more meaningful legislation, and it seems that they'll be not be persecuted. So also the halvings, and there's a halving coming up, the community, strong community, in price discovery zone. So I said, recommend watching, and then it came out with a buy alert there shortly thereafter. So why is that? Let's see, shielded tokens, we won't get into all that, and basically, we want to cover the news on this here high level. I've got a lot of news to cover, so I don't want to get too far into the weeds. And if you guys do have questions, you can put those in the chat. I'll get to those. I want to get moving on the rest of this. So rising surveillance concerns, here's where I was getting to earlier. and mounting regulatory pressure on transparent blockchains like Bitcoin have driven some investors toward privacy-focused alternatives such as Zcash, which leverages zero-knowledge proof technology. Otherwise, other platforms like Polygon Matic had ZK rollups. So zero-knowledge proof basically allows for faster transaction processing, although it isn't actually processing on the blockchain. It's kind of like batching out your, if you're ever had your own MasterCard Visa machine, it batches through the merchant account end of day. So there's nothing really wrong with that. The zero knowledge proof basically is highly secure. It can approve a transaction without having to go all over the nodes on the blockchain. That's a little bit blockchain for dummies there, and so it can support fast transaction speeds. Now, I'm still a believer in Solana and their transaction speeds up to 50,000 per second. But they have projects on Solana like Fire Dancer, which is coming out with 500,000 to 1 million transactions per second. So that transactions per second game certainly will lead markets because there's money to be made on the VIG, or the kind of that little bit of a piece that MasterCard Visa takes or the blockchains make. All right, point here is Zcash and stand-up beneficiary. Pure tokens like Dashcoin, haven't heard about that in a while, and maybe we'll look at that as well. Railgun, Horizon, these are sort of tier 2s. I'd like to follow the leader or start with the leader until it fully runs. And as a 25-year trader, in the old days we would day trade, and if the big movers in internets like Yahoo and Google were running, or another tech stock, we would also buy the tier 2s, the ones that weren't the leaders, because the leader would run and then people would take profits and put in those tier 2s, kind of like we see occasionally in alt season. I say occasionally because I don't know if we're going to get an alt season this year, you guys. Not a broad-based one, don't think so, but we'll see. Pure tokens like Dash, we already covered that. But Pirate Chain has also been on a pump here, hitting resistance as well, so don't go out and buy that. And none of this is financial advice. This is all for educational purposes. Here, Arthur Hayes, the irreverent founder of BitMEX, and currently, Bitcoin billionaire, has a great Substack, and he's got some great advice. So I would recommend listening to what he has to say. I'm going to talk about Arthur Hayes in a minute, of why he really thinks that Bitcoin is so important right now, and why these other countries are fleeing to gold, because essentially the U.S. has proven that they'll take assets, and not to get into political sides or wars, but we went in and basically took a lot of Russian assets. We're going in and taking assets from other countries that they worked hard for, and so not supporting them. But if you were another country or third world country and had all these assets, then they were putting them in U.S. treasuries, and suddenly the U.S. starts basically conscounding, is that it? Confiscating? There's another word, sounds like that. And anyway, taking and essentially legally stealing it. So do you want to keep buying that? The answer is no. So the buyers of U.S. securities and treasuries largely are not other countries now. They are fleeing to gold, which has pushed gold much higher. But we are now offloading basically the U.S. debt to stablecoin owners and the unsuspecting public. So anyway, here's Arthur Hayes. Choo-choo. I'll let you read that yourself. Next stop, Zcash 1,000. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think I will temper that and say 750 is the next strong target. But 1,000 is also a Fibonacci target, which I had already drawn. But guys, in this final pump, I think we are setting up for final shakeout. I think we are going to see a pump, and the musical chairs is going to get really exciting here this month. Where it's going to get really risky and dicey is into December, and we need to be ready to be taking profits and getting out, I think. At any rate, let's see. Renewed comments for Zcash from institutional investors alike. So that's interesting too. And then worth noting, because if it's also proof of work, then therefore not a security, although a lot of that the tax from the SEC, they're not really gunning for the other cryptos as securities, but you never know. They could change their tune at any point. Being proof of work, likely they will be categorized as not a security. So that's another reason institutions probably more comfortable starting to get into the Zcash network. So strengthening fundamentals, it says, that's good to know. Total value shielded. And I'd have to look that up. Maybe that's total value locked. Shielded, it sounds like total value locked. Maybe that's their buzzword on it. I'm not familiar with that. And but that's good. Total locked means not sellable, so that's also good. Can't be dumped at a higher amount. So let's see, strong upward trend. And let me just hop back over to the chart because it has, look at this on the weekly time frame. Zcash has had quite a run here, and we are, I was going to say, sort of seeing a cup and handle breakout. That's not this chart, but the prior all-time highs, or the prior highs here, I don't know if this is all-time highs, probably not on Coinbase, but the last cycle high, we blew right through it. At some point, I think we should see a pullback. If we can get a pullback anywhere in the 300s or even down to like 400, I would say that's a buy, and this is where Arthur Hayes is getting that $1,000 mark, I'm sure. Or it was just a wag, but it was a Fibonacci, easy Fibonacci from the cycle high, last cycle high down to the bottom, using the real bodies, puts it up here at 750 to 1,000 on Zcash. Right now, it's in price discovery zone, which is when the market makers take their foot off the brake and they just kind of kick back and relax and see where the buyers will take it before the buyers start selling. Then the market makers start moving their liquidation levels and stop loss hunt levels around that. So anyway, point being, this thing's had a bit of a pump. Wouldn't chase it. I did buy some down in here, a little bit of profit. We'll see what happens. I'll buy more on any dips. All right, so going back to the news here. After rallying for several weeks, token experienced a healthy pullback, rested before bouncing strongly. It did a little bit of a pullback here, I guess, and we just didn't have our eyes on it, which is the hard part. That's why I set lots of alerts on all these charts so I can get alerted ahead of time when they're breaking out of that long-term trend line resistance. There will be more of these, and we'll be keeping an eye on that closely. So we won't get into MACD, etc. That's basically all I wanted to talk about on Zcash. And you can look that up further. But anyway, that's a TLDR on all of that. Let's take a look at what's going on in the markets here. Bitcoin faces insane sell wall above 105K as stocks eye tariff ruling. Yeah, I'm not aware of another tariff ruling. I think they're probably trying to make Trump's tariffs illegal. Not sure that's going to matter. What they're saying here with a giant wall of ask positions, I will show you that because it's going to show up on our custom signals, which will be apparent in the form of a buy or sell block. Hang on a second. Don't look at that. That is the IBIT here. I'm going to jump down to the 1 hour, 4 hour. So let me put that away. Yeah. So basically, let's Ethereum. Forgive me here. Let's see. Let's get the Bitcoin. All right, where is the big sell wall? Now, I'm not seeing that on the daily or weekly. There's tons of sell pressure up in this range. And, okay, well, here's the sell wall on the hourly chart right up here around 105K. So that's what they're suggesting. Let me go full screen on that. These are part of our signals, which are the crypto mastery signals built by my partner, Joe, who is a programmer and quant engineer. And so these are the best signals that I've used. We can clearly see, we visualize where the sell limit orders are on the books, starting at 105K 400 all the way up to 109K. And there are more above that on the daily time frame. So Bitcoin likely pushes down for a little bit. It's getting a bit oversold, though. We do look for these. It's touching the lower Bollinger Band. So to me, that looks like it's ready to bounce. And so let's just jump back to the news before we get into the weeds with all that. There might be liquidation levels up there also. So faces giant wall of ask positions right there we looked at because we've visualized that. Incidentally, if you'd like to learn more, if you're watching this replay and want to learn more about those signals, go over to cryptomastery.org. All of you guys in Retire Rich, most of you have these already. And Joe has some new stuff he's working on that's about to come out. It's amazing. But for now, these are what we're using, and these are our secret weapons. So you can check those out also. Traders warn of another dip thanks to a large amount of buyer interest around 100,000. Also true. So we have been watching that, and you guys know that we have been buying at these levels. So let me jump to the daily chart, and we can see now that the buy zone, right? We can see that here clearly in this chart here with the support zone right around 100,000. So weeks ago and last week at our crypto mastermind in Mexico, we did a live session and I was saying we're out of the markets, stopped out of many alts. We avoided this big dump. I had set buy limit orders at 99K, 100K, 102, all the way up to 105. So I am buying in this range. We have buyers in this range, and there's also more liquidations down here. So I do think we dip down into this even 90, sub 99K. What needs to happen though is the hold above 100K on a weekly time frame, or we've got some trouble here. And above this 50-week exponential moving average. A lot of people are watching the regular SMA and the 200 SMA, but really the 50-day EMA is my line in the sand. So currently holding that, we could drop down below it for a few days and again back above it by Sunday, have a nice wick here, and if we're able to put in and start to turn a green candle next week, guys, this is going back to that optimal time when signals align. This could be that final flush where we're wanting to see this. We're wanting to see our trend strength indicator go red, then green. Red, then green is go, especially when we have daily and weekly align together. So currently still a little bit of a bearish pressure, not a big deal. But we can see those buyers down in here in this support zone. Currently, that is our strategy. Buy green, sell red. Resistance zones. We were selling up in this area and into this chop around here, and do have screenshots somewhere. Those of you that want to see that, but you guys in the program know that's what we've been saying. Bearish engulfing candle here indicates that we could push down the next few days. So, I was buying yesterday at that 104K region, thinking we get a pop, but also aware that we could pull back down in that range. So I'll be buying down in this area as well. I already have buy orders. I'm only looking to buy Bitcoin right now. I have some Zcash. Everything else is on the sidelines. All right, so U.S. trade tariffs coming from Supreme Court grilling. And, so if they rule that it's unconstitutional, I don't know what happens because I don't know if the president will care, and so how that legal battle would take a long time. So I don't know if that'll rally or spook the market. This price is what's spooking traders, and I do want to talk about at a higher level though the kind of changing of the guard, as it were, and let's see, do I want to get into that right now? Essentially, the TLDR on that, and that's something Arthur Hayes was saying. And if you can find the video, he also has a Substack, but there's a video of him being interviewed. Basically, he's saying and suggesting, let's see, mixed face liquidity games. I don't want to get into that right now. Actually, let's come back to that. All right, I'm going all over the place. Let's just get through this article and then we'll kind of ease our way over to it because I think I have some other more relevant news on that. Okay. All right, we'll come back to that. Bitcoin faces new liquidity games. So basically, the liquidations, this is something we'll look at on our end. And here's not the time to panic sell. We have been getting out over the last few weeks. This is a time to kind of dig in and get ready to dollar cost average. And so let's see what this mark is. This is, I'm not familiar with fire charts. We'll look at our own version of this as far as the liquidations. And here's the thing. Binance was the big seller of the last kind of week and it's strange on Binance Spot. So, they're offshore, they're not regulated. They're also implicit, if not negligent, in that huge sell-off we had where we had $19 billion in liquidations. That was engineered by Binance. And there's a lot of evidence toward that. So I'm hearing, don't sue me, Binance, but I wouldn't put it past you guys. Spiking the spot market while you're heavily short in the derivatives to make a bunch of money. That's the name of the game. And listen, make no mistake, these offshore margin exchanges, Bybit, BitGet, Binance, all of them, they see your stop losses, they see your liquidation levels. Their mandate is to maximize profits, which means manipulate price and create efficient markets, aka taking your money. It is what it is, you guys. But anyway, let's see. Yeah, and this is something that I haven't talked about before, order spoofing. And I'm going to mention it so that everybody knows what it is. Back in the old days as a day trader, we could be on the level 2 and watching a big sell block come in from Goldman Sachs, right? So if you're a buyer, if you're long on, say, Netscape, that I'm dating myself, Netscape or MicroStrategy, we used to day trade those stocks. And if you're on the bid and you're buying and you see a huge sell order come in on the ask, from Goldman Sachs, because they're labeled, you'd be inclined to sell and go short. Well, a lot of times what you'll see is fake orders on the ask, order spoofing. Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs is actually buying through Night Trimarker, one of the third-party vendors. So they're faking out a big sell wall while they're buying, and then sure enough, they pull off the sell orders, and they're already positioned well, and then they let it run. Long time ago. But order spoofing is kind of like that. And I've heard that's happening more and more where big sell orders will come in. And this is, what is this, on Arkham? I'm not sure. This is, anyway, it doesn't matter the source. But these are all apparent large sell orders. And you know what's interesting that I hadn't put together yet? But what we hadn't seen, bear with me here, what we hadn't seen before is this. Remember, we saw these big sell blocks on total market cap and Bitcoin before this big drop over here, and they went away. Markets pushed up and the sell orders went away. And then they came back with a really tall one. They're usually not that tall. And yeah, I think this is the first place you're going to hear this, but I think part of that might be order spoofing and trying to suppress price, getting everyone scared to sell. And with all of these orders, I wouldn't be surprised. Hold me accountable to this, you guys. I wouldn't be surprised, the Spidey sense is kicking in, if we start to push up higher here, and as soon as we get into this zone, poof, those sell orders go away, or they suddenly go up here, and then at some point we get a big short squeeze, and then boom, it's all gone. Because that would cause the most pain. Do you see how the buy order zone is nice and orderly? Between 97K and 100K, we had a bit of one at 105K that got taken out. I'm okay with that. I bought some there, and I've been buying more down here. But this is odd how thick that sell zone is, and what I'm suggesting is, what this is suggesting, all of these orders here, to me, this shows order spoofing, because honestly, if they were really wanting to sell Bitcoin, they would concentrate around one level. It wouldn't be all over the place, because these are easy to put on and say, I'll sell $1 billion in Bitcoin over here with no intention of doing that. And as price gets going up higher, it's easy to take those orders away. So we'll see. We'll see. And I'm really curious, because if that happens, guys, that opens up a whole new realm and a whole new paradigm of trading, because we haven't really seen a lot of order spoofing yet. But that's how I think they can manipulate this game toward the top. Okay. Anyway, this is order. This is crypto Twitter. There's going to be all kinds of stuff on here. Let's keep going. I went down the rabbit hole there a little bit. Here we go. Here's the liquidation prices. This is some articles. Bitcoin price 21 dip is normal, by the way. And this dip that we've had, so we went from 126K down to, say, 100,000. Easy math, 20 to 25% drop. Not a big deal. And we've seen other. Let me find this other graphic. We've seen other dips in the 30% range not too long ago. There's so many charts out, though, around. I don't have that one handy. I will touch on this one, though, that we talked about yesterday, so we'll come back to that in a minute. But here we see 21% dip normal as accumulator wallets are buying 50K Bitcoin in a day. So let's look at this. This is that liquidation heat map. I don't want to get too far in the weeds. This is our Retire Rich class, which is more higher level. But these yellow lines are where the liquidations are the largest, the potential liquidations, and that tends to act as a magnet. So we have some right in this range. We also have some down sub 100,000. So probably they'll pull it down and wipe out and liquidate those longs. Okay, they'll clear those out, they'll deleverage those, and then the magnet flips up higher to around this 105K. So that's the job of the market makers and the whales, And Binance, look, these are whales. They own a lot of Bitcoin. Their job is to move markets and have efficient markets, but they are gunning for mass liquidations and taking out all these degenerate, and I don't say that in a negative way. A lot of this market are overseas. They have a more of a gambling mentality, but it does provide liquidity. And so, I prefer spot market moves, but the degenerates, as it were, they are also part of this and providing liquidity. Without liquidity, the markets don't exist. Okay, let's see. So yes, as they were saying, stocks cooling their ascent to all-time highs. The potential for the Supreme Court to strike down blanket international trade tariffs of key importance. I guess the Supreme Court ruling but it would cause uncertainty. Here's what would happen with that. Probably a massive sell-off, a gray swan event. And then the markets always overreact. And then they'll figure out and say, well, all right, well, at least we have some clarity, until Trump opens. I'm not going to get into politics, but until the president opens, says again, I'm going to say opens his mouth because that was careless, unless it was planned. And obviously spooked the markets. $19 billion, guys, were liquidated that Friday. And silly me thinking I could take my sister to lunch. It was a nice quiet Friday until that happened. At any rate, we're not in the Wild West, but we're still in the 1900s of the Wild West. So early days, guys. All right. This suggesting that would give equities across the board a major boost. Risk-on assets thrive on certainty, and so I guess it could boost that. If more tariffs drops the markets, the idea of less tariffs could give us a major boost. So I think that's likely. I think that's probably what happens. Whether we get a knee-jerk reaction and then they figure that out, that's also on the table. So just kind of be ready for volatility the next few days, the next couple of weeks. The prediction markets, like this is probably poly markets, suggesting had little faith in tariffs remaining after the media reports judges were skeptical of their legality. Well, since when has that stopped President Trump? And, I think in the end game, I think he has a bigger plan. And he's inherited a huge amount of debt. Whether or not part of that was from his last term or not, the idea of growing our way out is certainly the plan. It's typically what we do on the Republican side. The concern, look, it's the biggest, the closest alligator to the boat. Make no mistake, is the $7 trillion in debt from the debt that the U.S. has. The $37 trillion in debt. $7 trillion of that is coming due for refinancing. We need to get interest rates down, and we need to get liquidity into the system which will rally the markets. And that's kind of what Arthur Hayes was alluding to, is the money printer is going to go burr, has to go burr, and has to get going. Question being, do they let is Powell going to stick around long enough? His term is over in May. So I think that writing is on the wall for like a Q1, Q2 market crash that then resolves with massive money printing. And maybe that's when Powell leaves and they bring in a friendly, and he just walks right over that money printer machine and plugs that sucker in. So, quantitative easing. Now, they've said quantitative tightening ends December 1st. That will help the credit market at least. That's why November is a bit of a wild card. The markets price these things in 6 months ahead of time, but I think that because there's uncertainty on if they drop rates again, we'll get into that. We'll go to FOMC tool. There's uncertainty, and I think that's both good and bad. It's good in that if we can read the tea leaves and see that they'll probably spook the market down a little bit, and then we'll buy, and then they'll run it. They'll say QT is over. We're dropping a quarter point, and who knows, you guys? Maybe if they drop a half a point, it's not being priced in at all on the FOMC. But these are those surprises we need to be ready for, and we're going to look at cycles. We're really rapidly approaching a daily, weekly cycle low, and that's when markets turn higher. So a lot to unpack there, you guys, I know. So anyway, Bitcoin run hasn't started yet. All right, Samson Mao is a perma bull, and I have to take it with a grain of salt. This guy is also promoting 200K Bitcoin because why? because he's also sliding in there $7,000 to $10,000 Ethereum. Because why? Because his company Fundstrat is now the largest ETH treasury company, following the playbook of Michael's strategy. That's his name. It's just easier, Michael Strategy, and or just strategy. But it's not reasonable. We don't we. It's possible. It's possible, but not likely. We'll take a look at that. I think 150K, we have to be really looking at getting out, 150 to 170K, and then 200K likely in next year. And I'll show you that model. We've seen it before. Anyway, Samson Mao argued fears of Bitcoin OGs selling are overblown. They're not overblown. The OGs from 2011 are selling and taking chips off the table, some lifetime achievement rewards, and why shouldn't they? But this is where we'll get into the Arthur Hayes article. So he's suggesting like maybe this is Bitcoin's IPO moment. And this is the argument. Many stocks on the stock exchange, and actually no, I'm mixing that up. It wasn't Arthur Hayes. It was Jordy Visser, who's often on Pompliano's podcast. So we are getting a bit ahead of ourselves. Hayes is talking about other countries basically buying a whole bunch of gold, and because the U.S. is stealing all their assets. So Samson Mao is a permabull on Ethereum. He can't paint the picture of a 7 to 10K ETH without sliding in. See, there's an old strategy and sort of persuasion. Two truths and a lie is not something that we prescribe to. But if you tell somebody two truths, they're like, "Yep, that's true. Yes, that's true," and then slide in a half truth, they will more likely say, "Okay, that's likely true also." You'll see it a lot in these articles too, where they'll come out, not so much Cointelegraph, but some of these lesser known news syndicates, they'll come out and say, well, this, and they'll be like, yeah, I know that, and this is, yes, and then they'll slide in some obscure coin that they've been paid to shill. That's the strategy. And so essentially, where was I going with that? And yeah, so Samson Mao, Fundstrat, he's basically, no, you guys, I'm getting all this mixed up. I'm thinking Tom Lee. All right, we've got all these players. Samson Mao is another permabull. Doesn't really matter who's saying all these things, though. It's about people are saying these things, and they're creating exit liquidity because they're highly invested in these instruments. Okay, so what served me well is whatever these estimates are, cut them in half, certainly scale them down a bit, ratchet them down. Here's why. I've used the analogy recently. Imagine 1 million people in a stadium watching 25 people playing musical chairs at the bottom. And all of them are also planning their own virtual game of musical chairs. When it starts getting dicey, nobody wants a round trip. People are going to panic sell at the first sign of trouble. Okay, this is just my thoughts, my spidey sense. So these guys know that, and Arthur Hayes, Samson Mao, Tom Lee, all of them, maybe with the exception of Michael Saylor, who doesn't care, but they are trying to get all of the retail to come in and create exit liquidity for these bigger holders. So for them to say that the selling of the OGs is overblown, I will touch on this now. This is where Jordy Visser says, he's like, look, this could be okay. This is a normal rotation out of an early asset that is now becoming mainstream. And he likens it to the IPO process on stocks. So on the US stock market, when a high-flying tech stock, for example, is about to IPO or after the IPO, you'll often see a period of downward consolidation. Now, why is that? Well, the early investors, the speculators, aka like the Bitcoin OGs and miners of 2011, they're naturally cashing out, and there's a rotation into institutional investors. So the institutional investors are slowly absorbing the early investors' supply. So, and it's usually strong, and they're absorbing until the sellers are exhausted, and then it really takes off. I thought that was a really profound analogy, and likely to be right. Because, we know that many of the OGs have been selling, what's his name, Willy Woo, early Bitcoiner. He's just like, look, I still believe in Bitcoin. I'm just going to move on to other things. And these guys have made their 10 or 100x. So it makes sense that this could still happen. And I think in that case, the fears of the OGs selling are overblown is fair because of the consolidation. But now he's also saying traders should focus on the next bull run. And so there's a little bit of truth in both. And it all leads to the musical chairs analogy. So we have to be, I still think we push up into December, or maybe first week or two, but then, if we get some parabolic blow off and we get into one of our sell blocks, that's it. We're out. We wait and wait for another green, sell off for black swan or bear market. Anyway, that's my opinion. By the way, if you guys have questions, I don't have the chat open yet, but we'll get to it. Actually, I don't see any chats. Cool. All right, guys. So this person's saying Bitcoin bull run hasn't started yet. That's false. Don't believe that. That's misleading. It's certainly started. We are in the final innings of the bull run. Make no mistake about it. And we're marginally outperforming inflation at this price range. Yeah, I mean, look, we know the bull run started in January of 2023. When our ERI flagged, and obviously that's been a huge run up. But we could see this, and this is something Arthur Hayes was saying also, the possibility of seeing the bull run continue into 2026, even 2027. Interesting. Well, with the money printer going, as he suggests, certainly that's possible, but I wouldn't look that far out in the future. All right. So that being said, let's see. Robert continues to slump this streak analysis. How are we doing on time? We're running a bit long on time. I want to get through the news and into the charts pretty soon. Essentially, Bitcoin selling intensifies Tuesday. We know that. All right. Samson Mao, there he is. Here's a bullish post predicting market sells plenty of upside. I mean, that's true, but that's different than saying the bull run has just started. That's not true, obviously. So, all of these graphics going on crypto Twitter where it's like we are here and it's about to take off. Look at the dates on those. Those graphics show that we were there a year ago. Okay. The parabolic blow off top may still happen, but it's not guaranteed. Let's see. Oh, we're talking about a Christmas God candle again. That's what they talked about last cycle, and I wouldn't hold our breath for that. That's part of that hype cycle spinning up everybody. Longer cycle, possibly into 2026. I think we could see alt season run into January of 2026. But we don't know. We'll follow all of our signals that take the emotion out of it. Here, this is Jordy Visser, as I was talking about. Macro analyst Jordy. I thought it was Jody. No, it's Jordy Visser. That's right. I knew that. Believes Bitcoin is undergoing an initial product offering phase, IPO, like I said, where existing holders are selling and new traders are snapping up the coins. Got it? Doesn't that make sense to me? And I think that's certainly part of this. The people are fearful because they created their own theory that OGs are selling above 0.1 million, 100,000. Why don't we just say 100,000? And they sell more. It's true a lot of those OGs were targeting that 100K level and may have been selling there, but he says focus on the big picture. Bitcoin is going to add a zero. It's just a matter of when. Fair, but I don't think it's going to be next year. These $1 million, I don't know. Arthur Hayes was suggesting that too, although he's saying $999,999, so trying to be creative there. Anyway, trying to get through this. Let's see. Bitcoin whale held for 7 years, sells 76 million to go long on Ether. Maybe not seeing it in the charts. We'll keep an eye on that. Market is in greed right now, according to this. When is this article? I don't think we're in greed, you guys. What? This is weird. Usually fear is on the left. Extreme. What is this? This is a wrong chart. Greed is on the left. The lower the number is fear. Don't look at that. That was some crazy town graphic there. All right, we talked about that. What is this? I don't know what I must have clicked on an ad by mistake. Let's get through this and we'll get to the charts. Can the biggest Bitcoin whales really decide when the market turns green or red? Absolutely. If you have 1,000 or 10,000 Bitcoin that you mined back in 2011, that's a lot of zeros. I met one of them on a Virgin cruise last year. Young guy, won't mention names, early miner, hung out a few times and he let it slide. He's worth 100 million. And, if you have that kind of money, probably good to take some chips off the table And as Bitcoin matures as an institutional product, that's happening. But the whales, for sure, they communicate. That doesn't mean the smaller whales are calling CZ and Binance. Binance is a massive whale. I'm pretty sure Binance and Bybit, all of those guys, the Singapore-based exchanges, if they see they can move the market, they have advanced algorithmic models, they have armies of quant engineers, and all it takes is a phone call or two behind scenes and say, "Hey, I think we could crash the market if we do this, and then we'll just buy it all back up lower." Guys, it's still a business. So keep that in mind. Also, nation states, Korea, China, Russia, who knows, they own a lot of these. Although we're waiting, China hasn't banned Bitcoin yet this year. So that always perks its head every cycle. So it's technically still banned, but sometimes they ban it again just for effect. And why do they do that? Maybe to short the markets and make some easy money. All right, let's see. Biggest wheel going to really decide when the markets turn red or green. And let's see what they say. Whales move prices, but ETF flows and liquidity macro shifts now decide Bitcoin's daily color. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, the ETFs, although BlackRock's been selling a bunch, we'll go ahead and look at, let's take a look at Farsight to see what's happening today. They didn't report what they did the other day on the 4th. I don't know why. Maybe shouldn't be government shutdown. Isn't it strange? They reported zero selling on November 4th. Fidelity was dumping. Maybe they're like, okay, your turn to dump. As of yesterday, IBIT is dumping a ton of BlackRock, or BlackRock's dumping a bunch of the IBIT, quite a bit actually. So certainly playing into this. Let's take a look at ETH ETFs, and that also selling a bit. I did notice that Solana has been accumulating slowly, so slowly is the word, but I think the Solana bid, at some point the Solana is going to catch a bid ahead of the ETF, and we'll do fine, but at this time I wouldn't be buying either. All right, since 2024, ETF outflows and inflows have been the strongest driver of green days and red days. As we just showed, exchange balances near multi-year lows. Sizable order travels farther through the book, I guess. Yeah, and that may be part of it. These large exchanges may be holding less or smaller quantity on the exchange. If more crypto is held in cold storage wallet, they've been talking about supply shock for a while. But with the derivatives, they can kind of keep that in check, I think. Futures, Forex, or futures and options on crypto. Large holders often split trades or use OTC desks. Also true. That means doesn't affect the price. Muting visible wallet moved shocks, funding rates, open interest, dollar yield often shape the daily's direction. Yeah, so that's the era that we're in, you guys. And why the chart, what does this mean is why the charts tell the story. Show me the charts, I'll tell you the news. Because these invisible things like funding rates, that means when people want to borrow to leverage long or short, you have to borrow the coins from the exchanges. There are funding rates they charge for that. That's how the exchanges make money. And the funding rates, when they're unusually high, typically it means that there's over leverage in the system and there's a big target for the exchanges to go liquidate those. And they make money on all sides. The house always wins, you guys. So, but these are things that you and I, as retail traders, don't want to be trying to decipher. We can look at funding rates, but it's information overload, open interest, the dollar and yields, and all of these things. You know what? Just show me the charts, and all that, because the bigger money will follow all that and usually show us what. That's why your indicators are so great. They show us what the smart people are, how they're digesting all these things. Occasionally, day traders will get into all that. We don't need to. All right, deep breath, everybody. Spot change. Let's just get through this. ETFs, inflows, outflows, depends how much tradable supply on exchanges. Yeah, so as I was alluding to, if supply is low, then the Binance's, we now know that Binance was the big seller last week, probably because they were like, hey, well, there's really low supply, and, and so maybe we just dump a bunch of it and spook everybody and catch all the stop losses and liquidations. Guess who makes money when that happens? Binance does. They buy all of that. They can see, they're not watching your specific stop loss, but they have areas of volume based, blocks. And if there's a large volume of traders who put their stop loss, and that's normally what we do. We put our stops below the latest wick down. The AI algorithms, and they have learned how to fool and beat these, emotional humans. So you have to keep that in mind. And then, of course, liquidation prices, they can see that. So they're quant engineers and their AI and their machine. They say, how do we basically do this? They'll say, well, sell 10,000 Bitcoin, and boom, they'll buy it all up cheap, and then they'll start to mark it up. Not to discourage anybody, as long as swing traders and longer term traders, we don't really have to worry so much about that. But anyway, look at this. The IBIT, BlackRock, has 800,000 Bitcoin. Yikes. Yikes. Because that means at any point they could crater this market if they were to just suddenly dump a lot of it, So we have to be really careful. And they're one of the ones with the skybox at the stadium, watching the 25 people play musical chairs, and they have their walkie-talkies and their binoculars out, so they can be the first to hit that sell button. So I'm just preparing everybody. When this bubble bursts, it's going to be nasty for a while. Okay, so we need to be selling into those sell blocks that we have on our indicators and into those targets we're going to get to. All right, guys, we got to hurry up here because we're going a bit long. BlackRock, BTC Holdings. I'm talking so fast it doesn't make sense. Anyway, who's a whale? Anybody over 1,000 BTC as a whale? And let's see, an entity. We don't need to get into that. I'm going to skim this. A rich list, address counts, exaggerate concentrations. Whales flip the market intraday. Aggressive orders can move prices sharply, especially when order book depth thins out. We've talked about that. And okay, I think that's all we have to talk about today. Just to touch on ETF flows, liquidity positioning, macro tape. Yeah, that's getting in the weeds a bit. ETH erases its 2025 gains. I don't like Ethereum's chart here. Is it heading to 2,200? We'll get to that on the charts. I'm not bullish on ETH right now, you guys. Pompliano letter. This is 6 days old. Coinbase earnings show crypto's eating Wall Street. So Coinbase probably it's a good stock to own. Until we get to the bear market. Got an alert going off on ICP going up higher. That's one we were in and got stopped out of, but wouldn't you know it, that thing's was flying again. It's hitting some sell blocks, so don't chase it there. I already know that because I have a photographic memory, everybody. It only lasts about 30 minutes, but there you go. Sometimes longer. That's how I remember phone numbers. Just visualize the last four on a keypad. There you go. Thank me later. Coinbase, long been the most important company is Bitcoin. Yes, sell your Coinbase, by the way, when we go into the bear market. Why? Earnings go down, stock price goes down. Earnings go down when people are trading less. Happened last time. There you go. There's a tip. I wouldn't sell all of it, however. As a long-term Netflix, Amazon, accumulating Coinbase, probably a good play. Even though they're really shitty to customers, and pardon my French, but two of my private clients have been locked out of their accounts recently for no good reason. And in one case, it was just to figure out the KYC, but they took a week and a half to even send him what he had to send to them. And in the meantime, the markets were dumping, couldn't sell. Same thing they did to me in July of 2021. And so if you're from Coinbase and listening, do better. But at any rate, as for us to invest in that, I think it long term be a good company to invest in because the U.S. isn't going to go after them. They're a market leader, and Wall Street's going to plug their fangs into it somehow, and everyone make a lot of money. Might as well be us. All right, look at that. 1.7 billion in revenue, and that's pretty good. So, but again, I would not be married to them. I would sell 80% if we get into a bear market. All right, this is interesting. Coinbase Institutional believes banks will hold Bitcoin eventually. That's okay. That's all we need to get into. Slowly, we're going mainstream. Bitcoin's valuation metric hits at possible bottom forming. the MVRV ratio. These guys that are on Glassnode and doing the on-chain metrics, they geek out over all this. But unfortunately, it's usually late, and we see it first in the charts. But occasionally there's some useful information. Yeah, the MVRV. What does it stand for? I could probably tell you. It's not anything that exciting. And it doesn't really matter. But here, when it gets down low, where are they showing the MVRV? That's the Bitcoin price. I don't know, you guys. Possible bottom. I don't care. We're seeing the same thing on our oscillators. So just don't worry about these on-chain metrics, you guys. Here it is. I used to pay attention to that stuff. It's information overload. It's unnecessary. And if you haven't heard me tell the story before, I sat in a whale session at the 2021, it must have been 2022, Bitcoin conference, had a whale pass. Those are $15,000 because you get exclusive sessions, and I didn't pay that, but I paid a lot. It wasn't that much. Sat in a session by Dylan LeClaire, the then editor of Bitcoin Magazine, who spent an hour going through on-chain metrics and MVRVs and all of those things, and then said, and all of it with the argument that Bitcoin would not go below $30,000. Well, I had suggested, and at the end, I looked around and surprised nobody questioned that, raised my hand and said, well, what would you say to people like me that think we'll go below $20,000? And for a moment, you could hear a pin drop, and then he, with as much condescending tone as he could, he just said, well, I just showed everybody why that's not happening this past hour. And the whales kind of smirked and looked over at me like, who let that guy in there? Well, I had also publicly forecast 16.5 as the low 5 months prior, and guess who was right? So these on-chain metrics, guys, they don't really know what the F they're talking about. It can be right in direction, but not on price, I think. And look, maybe I had some luck involved. Always a student, never the master, you guys. All right, what's this JP Morgan? Sees Bitcoin price reaching about 170K within the next 6 to 12 months. I like that because so do my models. We have talked about, and I'll just show you that. Let's see, more alerts popping off, but we'll come back to that. The 170K price point here, this has been my target for quite some time. Look at that. This is 176K. The problem is, and we have to acknowledge it, we need a big bounce on this weekly candle, because as of now, this off the table, this off the table, this is off the table. We are losing this key trend line support, and that, as they say in Mexico, is no bueno at all. And but we have the ability to recover it and have it be a wick, but we'd have to get back above 112K by the end of the week, and or it's FUBAR. And if you don't know what that means, Google it. Okay, let's get back to this. So 170K, we'll see. 6 to 12 months is a pretty long window. I was hoping for that by the end of the year, but do not drink my hopium or don't have your own hopium. That gets you in trouble. Point is, we have estimates from 150K, 170K, 6 to 12 months, I think, is reasonable. Deleveraging of perpetual futures is likely behind us. That's what we saw that Friday, where Binance and parties that be deleveraged. There is something called programmed deleveraging, essentially wiping everybody out. And that's apparently what happened. And they said it was a glitch. I don't believe that for a second, but we never know. With the massive sell-offs, we see all of these exchanges. Just the other day, even I was sending some Bitcoin, and it was taking forever because the Coinbase was kind of on overload. Anyway, deleveraging in perpetual futures is likely behind us following the record crypto liquidations on October 10th, as I just said. So let's see. Why do they say resets? Yeah. Okay, so Bitcoin could rise as leverage resets. That means more people come in and use leverage to push up price. The relative volatility versus gold may improve. Bitcoin usually follows gold, and we haven't seen that yet. M3 has gone higher. We've decoupled from M3. It is now not tracking at all. So interesting times, you guys. And the analysts, led by, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name, Nicholas P. Nick P. there. Sharpest decline, record liquidations. This probably is not all that relevant. I am going to skip it. All right, infographic. Bitcoin versus gold. Pros turn to Bitcoin as older investors stick with gold. Why is that? They know gold, and also all of the fund managers won't get fired by buying gold. It's a long term for centuries, and so, but look at the search interest for buy Bitcoin and buy gold. Bitcoin on the rise, spiking a bit, but doesn't really show us that much. Anyway, old timers maybe are coming around, but look, it's going to take time for these reasons. The older people like Warren Buffett of the world, they don't this crypto, Bitcoin, digital money, magic internet money, it scares the bejesus out of them. So, it's going to take a little while. This is, the younger generation gets it. And there's a whole wave of people at that age that in the next 20 years won't be with us anymore, and there'll be capital rotating down into the younger generation. So, that's the future for crypto and Bitcoin. Anyway, guys, by the way, if you're still watching or watching the replay, we have a Black Friday special here. I forgot to mention, you can go over to moonstream.io slash, what is it? And there should be a button on here that, Irene, maybe you could send me that, but I think you sent me one, this one here, that is a new version of this page, right? So you can go and look through all that, and then there should be a button for, no, this is for M3 crypto, Irene. So we got to get that fixed. So I'll wait for a new link from the team. Let me just jump into Signal here. I know I have one it's a $97 a month special, and normally it's been much higher. So, but my Zoom. Wait, where's my Zoom here? Oh, I know where it is. So let's do this. Before I put this image away, too late. Hang on a second. Okay. First of all, this is in Zoom or in Signal, and then I'll go back to it. If you've seen this graphic around, by the way, some people are saying this shows the top is in. The problem and I've already debunked this a few times, this is a linear chart. And so it's wrong. Anytime you're using a more than 2 or 3 years ago, you should be in a log chart, logarithmic. I'll show you that in the charts. And when we do that, the angle is much higher. It's pointing toward 200K and higher. So this I don't think is accurate. We're not going to go to 30,000 Bitcoin again. I mean, never say never, but I think the next bear market low will hold at 74K right in here in the old high. And there's a number of reasons for that. Okay, that being said, let me put this over here and grab this link. Yeah, Myrene, if you're listening, yeah, so I need a link to so basically, let me see. Here it is, you guys. It's $9.90. It's not a pretty page. What you can do is go to moonstream.io/retirerich to read about it. Okay, and then the actual Black Friday sale pricing is going to be, all of my stuff has disappeared. It's going to go here. This is really clumsy, you guys. Sorry about that. Moonstream.io/97 RRIC. There you go. And so what I'll do here is where's the chat, everybody? Here's the chat. The 97 RRIC. So we put a wrong link in the above. Okay, so go check that out if you're watching the replay. Most of you are already in the class, and it's kind of a little Black Friday sale. Okay, cool. Let's get into the charts. How are we doing on time? And we're doing okay. We don't have that much to cover on the charts, so let's go through and start here. Bitcoin is kind of rolling over a bit. I'm trying to put in a higher low. Not sure. I am mostly watching the daily charts on this. So looking at the daily charts again, coming back down on the support zone. I think 100, even 98K. 98,700. I have a buy ordered at 98,100, and I've been getting filled in this range down here. So I think we do come down and retest that, chop around, and then head higher. Why is that? On our trend strength indicator here, we see it's coming down. I want it to come down for a few days. Why? the bigger moves happen from these lower zones. This is our momentum indicator, proprietary indicator called the trend strength indicator, and it works great with our early reversal indicator. And those have not fired yet. That's why I'm doing a little bottom fishing reluctantly. And by the way, let me turn off these lines on this for the ERI. Hang on a second. It keeps putting the lines back in, and I like to turn those off. Those vertical lines, because it gets to be a bit much. Labels on price there, the lines. There we go. Okay. All right, so, but when we start to see that, we're going to see that at some point, guys. These green arrows down here, when they coincide with the TSI, we get these nice moves higher. And right here, we've got it. We had a push higher there. And most importantly, when it happens on the weekly side also, when we're getting oversold on the TSI weekly and then print a green, green is go. What I'm going to point toward is we have seen these points in the bull cycles where Bitcoin can double from here. Okay, so that's why 200K still on the table. I don't think we'll get that high. And all of the noise here, just look for the green zones. Buy in green, sell in red. That's the TLDR. And that's all I would talk about right now. Let's see. Dan, I self-identify as a whale. There you go. I self-identify as a guppy at the moment. No, I mean, you know, there's so many varying levels of this, and we all have our story. But I had just sold a company in 2013 and had 350K in cash. You know, coulda, shoulda, woulda. But because of my thieving CFO had run up at least that much in debt, I was, you know, being the good guy and paying off a lot of debt, and even 10K in the Bitcoin then. But you know what? I know me. I probably would have sold it when it hit 1,000. So anyway, there you go. All right, looking down here, let's kind of run through the charts. Yeah. No. Hey, look, Dan, you should self-identify as a whale, and there's a meditation CD that I use where it's, you know, abundance is your natural state, success is your default, and it's good. It's good motivating. I listened to it on my walk today. And so I'll just do the same. All right. So we're in a downtrending channel, you guys. The trend is your friend until it isn't. So, but what we'll be looking for here is a break into a new uptrending channel. It's got to happen soon. You know, maybe, well, nothing has to happen in these markets. But so we want to be watching for this, getting back above 3.6 trillion. That's where the big sell pressure came in. Total market caps. Isn't it interesting, you guys, that the last cycle high was what? It was 3 trillion, had nothing to do with the price of Bitcoin. Right here, $3 trillion market cycle top. Well, what happened? We got right up to $4 trillion, and that was it. So we really have to be mindful. I don't know anyone else talking about this, but these big round numbers are significant resistance areas on total market cap. So if my measured move on this last bull flag takes us to 5 trillion. Yeah, it takes us to 5 trillion. And depending on how you draw it, I originally had 4.8 trillion. But this, if we get lucky enough to get to 4.8 trillion to 5 trillion, sell everything, you guys. Not financial advice, but with these big round numbers on total market cap, it's when those programmatic selling kicks in. Yeah, prove me wrong. But anyway, worth noting. Big sell blocks overhead on total 2. That means ETH is also in the crosshairs. Guys, look at this. Total 3, though. Altcoins. This shows that altcoins are basically insert expletive here with an ED on the end. Either this is a lot of spoofing, which I don't think so. I think this is a lot of people saying, this is the old Martha, I promise I'll sell this when it gets back to break even. People who bought all through here on the altcoin markets and thinking they were about to go 10x in alt season, and then boom, they're bleeding. So at each one of these levels all throughout here, it's strange that it's so thick though. But anyway, yeah. Altcoins as a whole basically hosed. Total ES, excluding stable coins, having a little bit more support here. But, you know, look, we can't be fully bullish until we're breaking these and getting back above 4 trillion, even on the total market cap, excluding the stable coins. Okay, so I'm not sure if that's going to work. 4T, we'll try it. It did. All right, guys, that's all I have for the indices. DeFi basically hosed as well. Bitcoin CME, I don't see any CME gaps to the upside. We have filled them, so we'll put our magnet down below. There's a little bit of a CME gap up here, but it pretty much kind of filled it there. So no clear direction other than we're in a buy zone. So there we go on that. Ethereum, won't really look at that. The VIX is up a bit. Bitcoin dominance, all of the dominances are stagnating. We have USDT dominance up, so we'll look at that briefly. We have a study on that. Phantom Coin, trying to get a balance. I don't think Phantom Coin really has the narrative to recover. Maybe one day it's a good project, but the big ones to watch here is Zcash, still staying strong, isn't selling off like we normally see end of day. Ondo Finance is in a buy zone. I am considering buying Ondo kind of around 55 cents. But what I'm waiting to see here is our signals to turn green. Green is go, but we have the daily, weekly starting getting oversold here. Maybe starting to dabble a bit in Ondo, but only because we have these buyers here. The problem is we have the sellers right above. And that's the problem with most of alt season. Polkadot, all of this stopped out, no longer in any of these, waiting for a miracle. Filecoin getting a bit of a bounce. Where's ICP? We know ICP's been up a bit. Yeah, so ICP starting to run. It got stopped out down here. That's the name of the game. Basically, why is ICP running? I don't really know. Hold the stream. I'll have to do some research on that. But it's in the sell block here. Here's my recommendation. I would buy ICP on any pullbacks. Probably will see a pullback here. And because of this surge here, maybe that's a short squeeze. But we see a bunch of sellers. So I'd buy any pullback on ICP back in this range. No big deal. I'd rather buy into strength than trying to catch a falling knife. Or catch a falling vase in the kitchen, which I tried to do 3 weeks ago and just got my stitches out, nearly cut my little finger off. Catching a heavy vase with the left hand, not realizing there was a drinking glass below it. And I thought about showing it to you to make sure you know that analogy. Don't try to catch a falling knife because it was not fun. Nearly severed an appendage there. But I opted not to show you the carnage of that and the stitches there. All right, you guys, so let's keep going on this. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play? Other than that, there's not much to look forward to in these markets, okay? Until we get a bounce, and we're not there yet. Let's look at the monthly chart. I want to look at this. This is important because we have a fairly ominous signal here, and I'm just going to get right to it. Two of them, I'll get to it on the way. This is RSI heading lower, and that's a bit of bearish divergence, although Bitcoin also going lower. Do we get a bull flag bounce out of that? That would be interesting. I'll put an alert on the RSI breaking up above 64. That would be some indication of that, but we'd have to get above the 72 to have an indication of that, and that would be great. Can it happen? Sure. Do we know? We have no idea at this point. All right, what else do we have? Stochastics RSI also rolling over, and this is money flow rather. This is a bit delayed. We can see money's been flowing out of this market. We could see a drop in a bounce, certainly. We'll have to see. Let's draw it on there just for funsies and see if that can manifest itself. That would be fun. And I don't think I've said funsies on this channel or ever before. I don't think I will again. Here we go. Stochastics RSI heading lower, but on the 2-month, I have a note to self on the 2-month here. This is what also concerns me, starting to cross down below the blue over the red. And last time we saw that was November of 2017, and we saw it again in March of 21 before that summer sell-off into July, which we never really recovered fully from on that indicator. But here's the scary one. And I posted on this. This is likely the scariest chart on all of crypto because even though we've balanced out, well, actually, no, I've got to go to a monthly. Well, the 2-month will shows we have a little more time. But the monthly is really, it tells that picture, you guys, because this is one of the signals I used to call the top last cycle. When the blue line, this is a MACD crossing the red line. It was November of 2021 when the blue line started rolling over, and I started saying, let's get into cash. When the blue line crossed the red line, January 1st, 2022, I was pounding the table to get out of the market. Guys, we're right there. So I'm glad that over the last few weeks I have been saying get out and use your stop losses. We really are at a critical moment here, because if we close this month, we're just at the start of the month. This can certainly bounce, but it's looking pretty scary right there. And look at the histogram about to go negative. If we go red on the monthly time frame, it's over. It's over for a while. We had kind of this, but the last bull market, look what happened there. And no one's really talking about that yet either. Our signal line, which is also a MACD, is kind of telling the story. It's turning red and going below. This is not good at all. So we may get this surge this month and have to be okay with it. It's over, and November was it. Maybe December too, but here's a study you guys have seen me do. This is kind of based on the days to all-time high breakout ranges, but more importantly, all-time high to all-time high. Back in 2014 to 2017 high, that range was 49 bars, 49 months, 1491 days. So last cycle, though, from peak to peak was 47 bars to 47 months and 1400 days. So the question is, this cycle, will we get the shorter one, 47 bars, which means we topped last month? Okay, that would put us in October. Do we get 49 bars? Now we have a down month, so it's possible last month was the top. If we get a 49 bar, that would put us out here into December, but we've got to really have a frank conversation with ourselves, like the peak may be in. None of the other topping signals are aligning with that. So it really is a take it day by day. On the market cycle side, we should be kind of entering an area where we get a bounce or so, but I'm going to be suggesting that we sell into the next bounce no matter when it is. Okay, so anyway, stay tuned. This is another look at that. One of my studies, top calling studies, that is called Every Top in the Past. Essentially, when the price gets above the 200-week SMA, and if you go up, that is the price. So if we go over here, the SMA, when the SMA crosses the prior top, so when the SMA crossed the top here, going up, that was a new top. When the SMA caught up to the old top, you go straight up, that was the new top. So that being said, we should have more legs on this. We should have more runway on this, but it has to go up sooner. I fudged this with this blue line. For us to have the SMA cross this level, the 69K last top, we got to get moving quickly. And that still puts us into January of 2026. Maybe we see that. But making all the arguments, this isn't going to last forever. Okay, you guys, that's about all I have. Let's see. Any questions at all? We're out of time. Actually, we have a little bit. We have 10 minutes. Let's go down and look at the Retire Rich Inner Circle watch list. I wish we were streaming this, you guys. I'm going to have to fix that. We're going to maybe do some more live streaming. What do you think, you guys? I got to turn my AC down from meat locker levels so I don't freeze to death in the chair. And okay, Filecoin getting a bit of a bounce, but maybe that look, I'm gonna put my alert. I'm gonna lower my alert on Filecoin. I still think this thing has 45x. But it's hinging upon the AI bubble not bursting, or after the bubble bursts in AI and blockchain AI gets going. Problem is, all the for-profit AI companies are sucking all of the top engineers out of the room, paying them $200,000, $250,000 a year. Blockchain AI projects, I don't think it's not there yet. And recently today I saw that, did you know that OpenAI and the big companies are trying to get the US government to finance the massive debt to build data centers? Because the appetite for funding these things is drying up on Wall Street, and they're likening it to the subprime mortgage debt days of bubble-ishness. If you haven't heard, these big companies like OpenAI, etc., and Meta are looking to build these multi-billion, trillion-dollar data centers to power AI, essentially expedite the evolution away from the human race, I guess, to robots. But the point is, the Wall Street is not writing billion-dollar checks anymore for that, and it's kind of they're coming to the government saying, "Hey, yeah, we want you to guarantee these loans so we can build these gigantic data centers for AI." Kind of makes you wonder what they need all that compute for and what life will look like in 10 years, 20 years, be like the freaking Jetsons, bleeping around with our robots in the kitchens living in the sky. I don't know. You got part of me wants to see it and stick around and live to 120 just to see it. Part of me is wondering if I may regret that and might carry a miniature explosive device, or a Alexa, blow me up when it's over. Get up and similar songs. Oh, I was just kidding. Alexa just came on. Alexa, I was kidding. Don't blow me up. And Alexa's playing country music now. That's funny. Alexa, stop. That's one of the funniest things that's happened on one of these so far. All right. A good reminder that, who is always listening. All right, you guys, let's see. Going through the list of things we have been watching. Just, look, if you're holding any of these altcoins, you might be looking at a round trip on these. We had been recommending in our private clients to get out, set stops. We were out of Pendle. And so a lot of it up here, it just have to be ruthless on when these price action drops below moving averages and key support. And I know many of you just sort of freeze when these things happen. Ondo, I think, is a good DCA buy down in these levels to catch a bounce, but I would be selling into the sell blocks. Guys, it might be a trader's market for the near term and long term. And this hodling mentality, it's great. My best trade ever was the ETH I had from 2018 that I forgot about. But, I'm not so good at just not watching these things for days at a time. So anyway, and I'd rather cut my losses. So all of these, nothing really worth looking at. Holy cow, Boson. Well, all right, look, but these are just low volume short squeezes or volume pumps, margin pumps. This is on the list because we did well with it last cycle. Pirate Chain getting a nice little pullback here. I have some Pirate Chain. I think I would be buying some of this to hold on little bits, not a huge amount, but I was buying it back here. So if it gets up there, it was 10x'd, and I have it on some MEXC. It's hard to buy this though. You Trade Ogre used to be the place. They're gone. And I don't know, Pirate Chain, I just think it's one of those wild cards. It's kind of fun to say "R" and try it. You'll see. And so anyway, people like things that are fun. It's in the privacy sector. Meanwhile, there's not even a fart joke here, guys. Fartcoin has been obliterated, but bullish divergence on the daily. Meme coins may run again. I just right here, not any reason to. Well, if this goes green, if we get a TSI green and an RSI green, and these start to go green, then Fartcoin's smelling good again. But I don't think right now. I don't think right now is the time. It still needs an air freshener to make that thing smell better. Dogecoin, no. Brett token, sadly, has not done well. All these meme coins, Bonk, Pepe. Sorry, didn't mean to say that. Pepe. And there's not really anything there. And I'll look at the sea of red. Guys, kind of hate to say it. It feels like a bear market. Dare I say it feels like it's a bear market. So we have to be looking to treat any bounce as a counter trend bounce just in case. The AI coins. Okay, Dan, sounds good. I'll talk to you soon. And AI coins, just look. No, nothing. Do not buy anything in a sea of red. It's an AI coin. These will only run later. We have to get through like a parabolic bull run and everything else. Here's one that's been on my radar though. It was total accident. CCD. I forget what they do. It's in the price discovery zone. If you guys want to have a nice little gamble here, I read about it, but this is a cup and handle breakout, you guys. Where can you buy this? I have no idea. Kraken. What do they do? No idea. You guys know me. I'll trade sheep or goats if I like the chart. I like this chart. I'm going to be Kramer right now and pound the table, hit the buzzer, buy some CCD. The only problem is, well, I'm gonna hedge that in a big way. That's very low volume here, you guys. I'm not going to say buy. It is a beautiful looking chart. The problem is if you go in and buy some in any size, you may not be able to sell it. Right? So, I mean, to dabble in some CCD, it's on MEXC. I'm hearing some kind of maybe alarming things about MEXC though, about liquidity and getting your money off. So I'll double check that. But Kraken, KuCoin, Gate.io, guys, this is a moon or bust. CCD, I came onto it by accident. Nice little candle. It's moving. If you have a Kraken account or offshore, I like this chart. Blue Horseshoe likes Ellicott Steel. Name that movie for extra credit. I'll give you a bonus or something. Blue Horseshoe likes Ellicott Steel. Anybody know? It's a classic. What's the measured move on the breakout? Cup and handle breakout. There's not like a full cup here, so it's hard to judge that. But on these low liquidity ones, it's kind of a bit of a guess. But maybe, maybe I would buy some, 4 or 5x from here on a breakout. Maybe it's a moon or bust, guys. A couple $100. I wouldn't say no to CCD. I don't have Kraken though, and I'm not trading on these. You probably used Uniswap. Nobody knew what movie that was. All right. Well, it was Wall Street. Remember the insider trading and Gordon Gekko and all of that. Guys, I got to go. I got a call right now. All right, that's it for today, everybody. Nothing really else to say. So thanks, everybody. If you're watching this replay, please hit the like button and make a comment. That would be great. Trying to build up the channel to do more things like this. Okay, bye, everyone. Take care.